Hello, all. 8-Bit Brawler TL Nolan, and the Sega Senpai here is going to help educate some of these Nintendo nitwits on why the Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red isn't as good as what they are hyping it up to be, and I will explain why. First, let me give you a brief history with this Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red. Now, the game came out originally in 2004, and with this, they had a wireless adapter that allowed you to catch very limited legendaries based on events. Now, at its time, it was absolutely awesome, and this was the time where you were still required to either have a connection cable or whatever to do with Pokemon. However, but as the times had changed, so have we. We have become more online adaptive. We have moved away, and we have grown up. And a lot of us that grew up were excited for this at first, or at least I was. Now, I will admit, I was an absolute sucker for the nostalgia money grab, and I had to purchase my copy to do my own investigating, and I have. And I could greatly say we're going to now go through the pros and cons of why you should or should not buy this game. And I will grade it based on my personal takes on what I've experienced. Now, I do appreciate the fact that you have to grind for what you need again. It's not just all spoon fed to you like games nowadays. It actually forces you to do the grind to get to where you want. If you want to use Pokemon Home, you want to transfer your Pokemon, you want to catch these legendaries, it forces you to go that extra mile to be just so you're ready for it. And that I could appreciate because games nowadays don't do that. And it's really depressing. It is really depressing. So props for keeping the originality. And I will admit, it is pretty refreshing to know that there is an alternative way to catch the event Pokemon in Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red. Because without the adapter, there's really no way. But there are apparently event tickets. I haven't quite made it that far yet, but I have heard confirmations that there are potentially event tickets to grant you all the legendary Pokemon from that. Now, unfortunately, this one's the big kick in the nards for various reasons, and that's the not having online. First off, not being able to do anything online limits you so much, and I'm not taking anything away from the fact that it is gearing up towards Pokemon Home, so that way it's the Pokemon from there are accessible to Pokemon champions that are coming. That's also right around the corner. So I am keeping that in mind with this grading process. So the no Wi-Fi thing is just a blow altogether. So like from now until then, there's no way for me to go to reach out to my brother or message my buddy halfway across town or out of state to battle teams that like I wanted to build or trade Pokemon to fully evolve. So, no, no, no. I would have to have either a second Switch or somebody who is conveniently a gamer in my neighborhood. And I'm not gonna lie, it looks really bad just walking into a McDonald's. Hey, does anybody have Pokemon? No, we shouldn't have to do that anymore. We should have had the Wi-Fi. This no Wi-Fi thing was an absolute middle finger. They're on so many levels. So there has to be a patch to fix it. Otherwise, the game is just going to be as lackluster as ever. And that's just a stone cold truth. They were able to pull it off on the original Nintendo 3DS that I mentioned in my previous video. If you haven't seen it, you can go back and listen to it. That they couldn't even give that online feature to this updated game. So major disappointment. Major disappointment, Nintendo. How dare you? How dare you do that to us? You know better. I mean, you know better. Once upon a time, you guys were leading in the console wars, but now I don't know anymore. You just dropped the ball. You fumbled. Yeah, you had your opportunity and you missed it. You still made your sales, but you still screwed us. You still screwed us hard. Nintendo just gave us that shaft. So I'm hoping there's an update coming out though. And until then, that's pretty much how I feel about the game. It's just kind of so far. I mean, and and don't get me wrong. Back in 2004, it was an absolute blast to just come home, crack open your handheld, throw the TV on in the background because we didn't have cell phones and technology the way we do now to where we can be as communicative and um, interactive with various people from various parts of the world. So we have absolutely evolved. We come home to interact with our friends online when we game nowadays. And we shouldn't have had to revert so far back that it makes a game absolutely worthless. And if you're just trying to play it for the story, let's be real, guys. You can go out there and emulate it. So, I Nintendo has has the intelligence to think things through. I just don't think Nintendo will think these through. So, uh, well, I said what I said. I've made my peace. Time for the final grade. Because the story is so compelling, and it is still absolutely one of the greatest things to hit the Nintendo franchise. Sadly, I hate to admit, it still holds a high value with its emotional ties to what it was, and to the fact that it's giving us the ability to have access to legendary Pokemon to continue prepping for the Pokemon Champions game coming out. And I am going to also give it some credit where credit is due. It's giving us a little room to breathe so we are not overwhelmed and burning anyone out before Pokemon Champions is early. So that's kind of a blessing in disguise. I think they had in its own irony, like inadvertent kind of way. So for Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red, you're just barely above the average. Not by much, so don't get big ego. Just give us our online features. I want to shoot my buddy's Venusaur in the face with my Charizard, and I don't want to have to drive 2.5 hours to do so. Little Jimmy from across the state probably wants to play his buddy or a girl he likes down the street. That ends up that it, they can't really do anything because guess what? They got to be in person anyways. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody's going to let them do that in person when it's nice outside. At least no normal person. But anyways, I digress. Pokemon Leaf Green, Fire Red gets a solid B. If you want to play it for the story and have something to interact with someone local or maybe your kiddo or another, it would be a great start and a great introduction for them. However, if you I'll even give credit where if you just wanted to farm out the legendaries you missed out on because you didn't have the original wireless pack, I'll even accept that. But the fact that it does not offer the online feature, especially on a 20-year gap where everything is online, I just can't ignore that. This is a solid B plus game for something that should have been an absolute A triple plus. And all you needed was an online function, some online functions. You gave it to us in Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow on the 3DS. I don't know why you did it here. I want to thank y'all for tuning in, and if you liked my content, please like and subscribe, and I will be coming out with more content very soon.